rules for the Pascal programming. And if you're going to look at these particular rules, see, statement is equal to expression, or it may be a name of the expression list. And in Pascal programming, the composite or a set of statements, which is called as a block, which always enclosed between begin and end keywords. Then if then if then else, while, expression, do, a set of statements. Then, as I mentioned, there is no do while, there is a repeat until in Pascal programming. There is a for loop. So for expression, then to expression, and do the statement list. So for name of the expression, that is for I is equal to 1, then I'm going to mention the limit. So 1 to 10, and do the statement. So in C programming languages, basically you are using the curly braces. That is, we are writing while, condition, and then in curly braces we are mentioning whatever be the action. So this block indicate a S, which indicate a set of statements. Okay, so this is my C construct. Whereas when I'm talking about the Pascal while, expression, now there is no function bracket is given over here, so it will be while, condition, expression, and then do, begin, end. Okay, so but obvious, my set of instructions whenever you are talking, but obvious it will be while E and there is a do. So this is the syntax of that particular programming language. It is called as a language construct. So see, this is in C programming you're using curly braces, whereas in Pascal there is no curly braces are used. Okay, now I hope my blackboard whiteboard is also visible to you.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. So these are the grammar rules for each and every programming language. These grammar rules or BNF rules are for the Pascal programming. So we are going to see, this is the selection condition statement. So just now, as we have mentioned, how my control will flow. So in selection conditional statement, we have seen if then or if then else statement. So a condition statement selects one of the two alternative substatements for the execution. So over here, if you remember, we talked initially also in imperative programming, there is a single entry, single exit. So meaning is what? At this particular condition, this is my entry point. If the condition true, it will perform action 2. If it is false, it will perform action 1. But there is only again single exit state, exit point, right? So single entry, single exit. And this is the flow diagram of your selection control statement. So if then else, if there is only if E then statement, so in that case, what will happen? If it is if expression, then that means if this expression is true, then only it will perform whatever be the set of statement enclosed over here. This is C syntax, right? So over here, see, if it is if it is true, then only it will perform this. But if it is false, and then it will be normal statement 2, statement 3, like that. So over here, but obvious, in my implementation, in my memory, this will be my if condition. It will check the condition. If it is true, if my equation is true or my expression returns true, then only it will execute this block. But if it is false, if this expression is false, then it will go to this particular statement. That is, it will directly go to statement 2, statement 3, and so on, right? So this is called as the implementation or the flow diagram of the particular selection statements. So if then else. Now after that, we talked about the looping construct, which is divided into two types. One is for where we know how many times that particular statements will be getting executed, and indefinite, that is when we don't know how many times that particular block of statement we want to execute at that time, we are going for while, do while, or repeat until in Pascal. After that, we were talking about the switch case. So a condition statement selects one from multiple alternatives. So if then else जो है आपका वहां पे two alternatives है, but when you are having 10 or 15 alternatives, at that time you are using switch case where we are having multiple choices. So now the implementation of a case statement. So these are the statements, composition of these statements by using some grammar. Now the implementation of the case statement is, except for case statement, the statement constructs in imperative language can be used without thinking about how they were implemented. Some implementations recommend only the use when the case constants are essentially adjacent. Meaning is what? Whenever we are going for the implementation of the conditional syntax directed control flow statements, excluding or except case statement in imperative language, without thinking we can directly going for the implementation of these statements. But whereas the case statement, switch case, see in C programming we are talking that as a switch case, whereas in Pascal they are referred as a case statement, and these case statements are recommended only when we are having the essentially adjacent cases. Meaning is what? When I am having 1 to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, like that, at that time it will recommend. Otherwise, explicitly you have to take care while writing the case statement. So how my case statement will be written, that is case E. So case E is what? It is nothing but it will check the expression, and how it will written in Pascal, that is case E. E is nothing but expression and of multiple choices. So of is the again reserved keyword of that particular programming language. So case E of, then over here you are going to specify the case constants. Okay. Now case constant, and then in that whatever be the statement, case constant 1, case constant 2, and so on, whatever be the multiple alternatives you want over here. So, but obvious, when you are having not adjacent cases, that is, as I mentioned, if we are having 1 to 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, but even though when we are writing, you can write in any order. I can write case 1, case 10, case 3, case 4, like that. So the order of the constant doesn't matter. It can be in any order. But whereas when I'm having, so this is an example, case E of 1. So when my case is 1, I'm going to execute S1. If my expression is 11, it will go to S2. And if it is 1 to 1, then it will be S3, right? So these are the three multiple choices over here I have. Now this case statement, I can write by using if then else, nested if then else. Can I write that? Is it possible to convert a switch case into nested if else statements? Is it possible? It is possible,
Yes.
but correct. So n is equal to E, where it is expression and whatever be the value. And if my n is equal to 1, then I'm going to execute S1. If it is not 1, then I will go to next. I will go to else, and in that else again I am having if then else, right? So this is your nested if else. But while writing nested if else, you have to take care that else will be properly matched. That is what we have already learned, that ambiguity, else ambiguity in the grammar, right? So you have to take care to match the else part with the nearest f while you are writing the nested if else statements. Now, so how this conditional flow, as I mentioned that, or as I have shown for one if case on the board, that is E code. So how in your memory, the conditional statements or how that grammar will be generated at backend. So S, if E, then S1. So meaning is what? If the condition expression is true, then execute S1. So, but obvious, this E code, which is nothing but the condition, and if this condition satisfied, so see over here if you are looking at, it is shown E dot true. That is, if my expression is true at that time, it will go to that particular label or that set of instruction. So in this particular case, but obvious over here, if so E dot true, so but obvious from this label it will execute, but if it is false, then in that case it will be E dot false. So these are the new labels at the back end my system will generate, or my compiler will take care while executing this particular statement. So E dot true, it means it will go to E dot true label and it will execute S1 code. But if it is false, it will go to E dot false. So this is called as a implementation of the statements or the execution flow. Okay, this is the flow of the execution, and according to your conditional control statement, it will perform that particular execution. So but obvious E dot true is nothing but a new label. So if it is true, it will go to this particular block. But if it is false, at that time in a memory, there is a go to statement which will go to E dot false, which will be nothing but the new label for the execution. So this is if then else. Same way I will have, sorry, this is just simply if then, that is if condition true, then this one. Now if my condition, if I'm having if then else, so see, can anybody just tell me, if my condition is true, it will go to where, and if my condition is false, what it will does? What is the difference between this diagram and this one? Is there any difference? See, when my condition expression is true, it will execute S1 block, but once that S1 block will over, because it will not go to false part, it will not go to S2 code. So once my S1 block will over S1 dot code, it will go to S dot next, right? But that is not the case over here. It will directly go, after executing E dot true, it will go over here, because as I have mentioned, which we have already talked about this particular control flow, that is if condition true, it will execute this block, but if this condition false, it directly go to S2 statement. But even though if it is true, it will execute this block and it will continue with statement 2 like that. Okay, but when you are having if then else, at that time, after executing this particular if E, then this block S1, else S2, and then you are having statement 3, statement 4 like that. So if my expression is true, it will go to, whether it will go to S1 or S2?
S1.
Yeah, S1. After completion of S1, where my control will transfer then? Whether it will go to S2 or directly S4. After execution of S1, if my condition is true, we will go to S1, and after completion of this S1 block, where my control will transfer? It will be transfer to statement after your else block, whatever be written, right? So that's why in your control flow diagram, that is implementation, or it is also called as flow diagram, where it had shown that if my condition is true, it will execute S1 block, and there is explicitly one statement which system will generate it for it, that is go to S dot next. That is nothing but the statement 3 in this particular example. Now after that, next is the looping statement. So for looping statement, S while E do S1. Meaning is what? If my expression is true, execute S block. So same way like we have done for the if then else. So S dot begin, which indicate the starting of your code or your looping statement. See, now over here S dot begin. In previous case, we haven't written anything. So directly whatever be our condition block, based on that condition, it will select the proper alternative and it will continue with the execution. But whereas in looping statement, whenever this condition is true, it will execute this S1 block. And but obvious, again, I have to, based on the condition, I want to execute this S1 code block again and again. That's why it is looping. So that's why my looping starting of my entry point of the loop will be labeled with s.begin. So if this condition is true, it will transfer this control to eTrue label. It will execute and then again it will go to s.begin. So again it will transfer my control to the starting of the looping statement. It will again check the condition and in this way it will continue. But when this particular expression or e code block fail or it will false, that condition is false, it will go to the e false label, that is out, it will come out of the looping statements. So this is the implementation of the conditional or the syntax directed control flow statements. Now same way I have explained you the basics of if then else, looping like while and all that. Same way you try it out for loop, do while loop, nested for, with if, nested while, with if, and nested for loop? Because you are familiar with these and you can try it out in the C programming. Will you be able to show the implementation, that is flow of the execution of these statements? Yes? Yes or no? Yes, respond. Whether you will be just like we have done for the while, then if, then else, will you be able to do it for do while, for loop? Yes or no? Yes, Varangi, Snigdha. Will you be able to draw that flow diagram of these particular?
ma'am.
Correct. So this will be the exercise for you, homework for you. You can try it out the same on the same line which we have done for the previous statements. So now by using the this conditional control statement, now you tell me if I want to check whether a given year is leap year or not. Now tell me how I can implement this and what will be the condition and which particular statement you will recommend me to implement this particular example. If I want to check a given year is leap year or not. For example, I want to check 1996. 1996 year is leap year or not. Now how I can do that? Leap year can
If the year is divisible by 4, then it is a leap year.
if the year is divisible by 4, okay. Any other condition?
Not divisible by 100.
Not divisible by 100 or divisible by 100?
If it is divisible by
It is
100,
divisible by 100. It is not leap year.
It is divisible by 100, but it will not leap year. Correct? Then
Divisible by 200.
200 or 400? It is, see, it is divisible 400. Exactly, because see, if I'm having the year 2000, whether 2000 will be leap year? Yes, it is. See, it is divisible by 100, but sometime like year 1000, it won't be a leap year, but it is divisible by 100. It is divisible by 100, but it is not leap year, whereas 2000 is leap year. So for such a condition, we will have year divisible by 4 and 400. Correct. So these are the condition. Now I have to write this condition. So can you tell me which particular statement, conditional control statement, will be appropriate for implementation of this particular application?
if
Only
If.
if is sufficient? See, with if you will just check it out with one condition. But over here we have to check 3 conditions, right?
if then else,
Correct. We have to write if then else, and how I can write these particular 4 condition, that is if my year, whatever be the leap year I have taken, just I will pin black. If my year mod 400, see, if my year mod 400 is equal to 0, then I have to check for the next condition. So I have to go with else. Else, again, I will have another condition. So I will go with the nested if else's. And depending on the language which you are using, but obvious, it will use that particular keywords. Like if elif, if you are using C at that time, you will write if expression, curly brace, again else. In else, again you are writing if, write that, right? So over here, what I will do, I will check mod, or you can use it divisible by. So if it is divisible by, it means I'm checking the remainder is 0. So again, I will check if it is first divisible by 400, then I'm going to use if I'm checking whether it will be divisible by 100, and then I'm going in the next condition, that is divisible when the leap year mod 4 is equal to 0, then only I will say that particular year is leap year. So over here for this particular application, I'm going to use nested if else's. And I hope after this discussion, you will be able to write the nested if else control statement, and you can show the flow of execution also. Yes or no?
Yes.
Correct. So I will proceed then. Now, so these are the conditions just now which we have talked. Every fourth year is a leap year. So 1756, 1760, the years which are divisible by 100, but they are not leap year, and the years divisible by 400 are leap year. And in order to encode this, we have used nested if-else statements. Now, if you remember, by using these conditional control statement, also we have discussed the adjacent duplicates. Do you remember in a previous lecture we have talked about remove the adjacent duplicates from the given set of or given sequence of numbers, which we have seen with the Pascal. Same program is converted into C program, where we have used in the previous code we have used begin, end, like that. I will just go to that particular slide so it will be easy for you to recollect. See, read X, while X not the end marker, do, and then begin end, right? Whereas this begin end we have just replaced. So I have converted that Pascal code into C language because you are familiar with C. So from Pascal we have converted it into a C program where while less than I less than 10, and then instead of begin end we have used curly braces over here. So printf, I'm printing that number a of I have assigned to next, that is I'm reading the next element, and I'm checking whether the current element is same as of the next element which you read from the sequence, and if it is equal, we will just skip that. So it means we have just incremented, that is what we have done in Pascal as repeat until, right? See, repeat, read next until next not equal to X. So this line is converted into C programming by using again one more while loop. While X is equal to next, I'm just skipping. I will increment the I value. And then when it will not equal, it will come out of this particular while loop. I'm assigning next to X and I will increment I with the one value. So this is the conversion of Pascal code to the C programming, because if you remember, I said each programming language is having its own structured construct or its own components for the language designing. Now, after that, next is design consideration, that is the syntax of that particular language. So basically, syntax affects usability. Now, I will give you an example. All of you are familiar with C programming? Yes or no? C, Java, C++?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
now when I'm using a semicolon, so semicolon you are using in C programming to terminate a statement. All of you are agreed?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. But when I'm going to use that particular semicolon with a for loop, see, A is equal to 1 semicolon, B is equal to 5 into A, it means I'm terminating that statement. Whereas for I is equal to 0 semicolon, I less than B semicolon, I plus plus. What it indicate over here? In this particular statement, my semicolon is used as a separator, right? And whenever I'm using, see what will be the output where I'm saying for I is equal to 0, when my I is less than B, perform some condition. But if you're putting semicolon after this for statement, what will happen?
For loop will not execute. It will
For
terminate.
correct, for for loop or this particular looping statement, I have used for. If it is a while also, so after any looping statement in C programming, if you put a semicolon, it means it won't execute a set of block which you want to repeat it again and again. It means your for loop is terminated, right? So but obvious fewer programming errors are believed to occur if semicolons terminate the statement than if they separate the statements. So over here it will terminate, so but obvious it won't execute as per our expectations. So with a semicolon, it will act as a separator versus the terminator. So single character is having a multiple purposes. So over here in previous two cases, it will terminate this statement, whereas in this particular third statement, it is act as a separator. So but obvious, the syntax always affects the usability of that particular programming language. And for that, I had given you an example of a semicolon over here. Now, after this, this is one grammar, it is written. Now, S starts with, or S is empty, or S can be a statement, or S produced. The grammar rule is given over here. Now, so by using this syntaxes or design consideration, now when we are saying design consideration, but obvious, as I mentioned, each programming language is having its own grammar, its own syntactical construct. So for that syntactical construct, this grammar is already written for your compiler. And now these are some examples. So can you check for the first statement? Now I will do it one for you, remaining you can try it at your end. The grammar rules are given to you. Now I want to check for the first example, that is statement curly braces, statement 1 semicolon, statement 2 semicolon, and statement 3. Now tell me how I can start for the grammar generation. The rule set is with you. So with which rule I have to start? Starting symbol S. Then which rule I have to use? Chalo quickly. Example is what? Curly brace, then set of sequence of statements, and it will close with the curly braces. So which rule I have to use over here? S produces empty, or S statement, or S curly braces, SL curly brace. If E, S, L, S. So now which rule from the slide I have apply first in order to generate this particular statement? Yes,
Curly braces, SL.
curly braces, SL, and then again curly brace.
Yes.
Correct. Now this SL. So still when I'm starting reading, I will apply this rule. Then now what I want? Statement semicolon, right? So now what next rule I have to apply again?
SL semicolon S.
SL semicolon S. Then
Again replace SL by SL semicolon S.
correct. SL semicolon S. Again,
Then replace SL by S.
correct. Then third time, I'm going to replace SL with S, and this S I'm going to replace with the statement, right? Then statement, so how it will,
part is not visible.
okay, now is it visible?
Yes.
Correct. So this SL, I'm going to replace with S, which indicate this S is nothing but my statement. So it will read it as curly brace, statement 1, semicolon. Then again, this S will be replaced as statement 2. This S will be replaced with statement 3 and then curly brace. Right? So by using this syntactical construct of a particular grammar, I hope you will be able to check the remaining 3 statements are syntactically correct or not. Will you do?
Yes.
Correct. Okay. So this is called as a design consideration, or the syntaxes, how it affects the usability. So you can check it out over here, as I have done for you the first example, curly braces, statement, semicolon, statement, semicolon, statement. You can do it for the remaining one and check whether they are syntactically correct or not. So now when my compiler, when it will generate such a type of thing, but obvious it will check with these grammar. If it satisfies, then only compiler will accept that statement as syntactically correct. Otherwise it will reject that. Okay, now next is handling the special cases in a loop. Now, so before I go with this particular thing, just let me know whether you are familiar with break, continue statements in C.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
So then
ma'am.
it will be easy for to understand. So whenever we want to handle a special case in a looping statement, we will use break and continue statements in the loop. So my break statement is what? If I have written, if I'm executing a loop for 10 times, but I want when my I will reach to 5, I want to I want to break that loop, right? So it means I'm going to handle a special case of number 5. So a break statement sends control out of the enclosing loop to the statement following the loop. And a continue statement repeats the enclosing loop by sending a control to the beginning of the loop. So break, it will come out of your looping statement, whereas continue will uh, transfer your control again to the starting of the loop. And there is a return statement and go to statement. So these are the 4 uh, statements which are used to handle the special cases in the looping statement. So this is an example of break statement. That is, I want to calculate a sum of 10 numbers, but if we have entered a negative number, it should not consider that and it should come out of the loop. So but obvious, in the for loop statement, I'm accepting a number, and if that number is negative number, what I have done? I have used a break statement. So whenever I entered a negative number, it will terminate that particular loop. Yes, Asmita? Hello? Asmita, are you able to hear me? She raised the hand. So if any
Ma'am, it was a
difficulty,
mistake.
what?
It happened mistakenly.
Okay, fine. I thought you are having any doubt, so that's why I asked. No issue. So I hope you are able to understand the use of break. That is, I'm saying whenever I entered a negative number, it should come out of the loop. So in looping statement, I have used a condition if number less than 0. It means I'm checking a negative number. If the number is negative, I'm breaking this for loop, and it will directly come to which statement now? In this particular case, after break, where it comes, control will reaches to which particular statement?
Sum equals to sum plus number.
Sum equal to sum plus, is it going to be sum equal to sum plus number?
Sum plus is equal to number.
See, it is coming out of for loop. So it will directly go to print sum statement. It will break this. See, this is my if and this is my for loop. So it will break the for loop. My break statement, if my number is negative, it will break. It means it will come out of this and my control will transfer to printf statement, not sum is equal to sum plus number. Are you getting?
Yes, ma'am.
It will break this for loop. So when it break, it means it will come out of this for loop. So after this loop, the next statement is printf. So when my loop is breaking, my control will transfer to printf statement. I hope you are able to understand. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. So this is break statement. Next is continue statement. So continue statement is what? If the user enters a negative number, I don't want to add it. In the previous case, what we are saying, if negative number, don't go for the next number. But if I want that negative number should be skipped from the addition, at that time, what I will do, I'm going to say if my number is less than 0, that is negative number, don't add it, continue. So with a continue, it will transfer the control again to the beginning of my for loop. And over here, it will check whether my I is less than 10. That is, it will check the condition and accordingly, it will enter into the loop. So break will coming out of your loop, whereas continue will transfer your control to the beginning of the loop. So this is the special case statements, continue and break. Whereas go to statement, which is not normally recommended, because go to, which will indicate move your control to the specified location. Yes.
Ma'am, but if we use the continue statement and the number is negative, then will I be incremented?
Yes, I will be incremented, only that number won't be. See, what is happening if I entered, suppose initially, is my board is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Is correct. Now, if I have entered initially 10, okay. Now, according to this particular program, what will happen after accepting the number? It will check whether the number 10 is less than 0. Is it less than 0?
No.
No. So what it will do? It will go to the next line. What is that line? Sum plus equal to number. That is, I am adding sum and that number. So initially my sum is 0. So 0 plus 10, my sum value will be 10 now. Right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Now, next time I have accepted a number as 20. What will happen? It will scan the number. I have entered the value 20. Now it will check, is 20 is less than 0?
No.
No. So it is not entering into if statement. It will go to the next statement after your if block, where we have written sum plus number. So it will be now 10 plus 20, which will 30. Agreed? Now I have entered the number, suppose for example, minus 30. Now what will happen? It will check. See, the code is in front of you on the slide. Just dry run it. Now when I entered a number as negative number, now it is checking if number is less than 0. Is it number is less than 0?
Yes.
Yes. So it will enter into this for loop. Enter into this if, because the condition is true. And what we have written in if, that is continue. So it will move my control to the for loop at the beginning of for statement. Now over here, my I, it is checking whether my I is less than 10. I have only entered up 3 numbers. So now is 3 is less than 10? Yes. So it will enter again inside the loop. It will ask user to enter the next number. So meaning is what over here, whenever I'm entering a negative number, I don't want to add into the sum. I want to just skip that negative number. So it will move with a continue, it will move to the beginning of the loop. Is it clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So
Ma'am, every time it will actually go in the if loop, right? Even if it is false, like it should go, na?
see, it will check that if statement. If is not looping, if is a conditional control. It will check the condition. If it satisfies, then only it will enter into this particular block where my mouse is there. But if this condition is false, it will go to the next statement, that is sum is equal to sum plus number. But every time in your loop, it will check that particular condition, if condition.
Yes, ma'am, I got it.
Understood?
Yes.
Correct. So these are the special cases. Now, after that, next is programming with invariants. So we have talked that invariants are nothing but the assertions in the in the last to last lecture. Now, whenever we are using this invariants or the constructed program in the imperative, just now, if you remember, I said it is a single entry, single exit, right? Each statement or any structural component of any programming language in imperative programming, that is single entry, single exit. So while doing this invariant usage, there is a pre-condition and post-condition attached just before and after a statement. Both are assertions. So meaning is what? When we are using the looping statements, but obvious, before entering into the loop, whatever be the condition is there, that is called as a precondition. And after the execution of the statement, there is a post condition. And based on that conditions, the invariants, when it reaches to that particular statement, it will either based on the true or false, that assertion will take place. Okay, that is what we have seen in the last lecture also. So what we mean by, so when we are using while x is greater than equal to y, do x is equal to x minus 1. So I'm doing the subtraction. So this is simple example in order to let you know pre and post condition. So before entering into this loop, the condition will be checked that x should be greater than equal to 0 and y should be greater than 0. Then only it will be x greater than equal to y, this condition. So this is called as my precondition. Then I'm going to, when it entered into the loop, but obvious, it will again check, that is y is greater than 0 and x greater than equal to y. So this is my invariant. It means depending at runtime, whatever be the value of x and y, based on that, the condition or the flow will be decided, right? So that's why my x and y will be called as an invariant. After execution of this particular subtraction, that is what I'm doing, x minus y, and the value of this subtraction I'm storing into x again. So after this, again it will check for the x is greater than equal to y, right? So after this execution, again whatever be the condition is there, that is called as post condition. So this is precondition and post conditions with the invariant variable. So for this, you can just write out the linear search. So my linear search proceeds by examining all the elements until either x is found or no element remain to be examined. So invariants can describe the data structure, a table organized around an invariant. Meaning is what? I can use a invariant in order to store the elements in a table. That is, this is an array. And I'm going to, this is I position, I equal to 0. So initially when I'm entering the number, it will be I of 0. Next time I will enter, it will be A of I, which will be indicating the position 1. So this is the invariant which can describe a data structure as an array. So this I is nothing but my invariant variable, which will be changing its value during the looping statement. Now, an approach to implement a linear search by using the statements, that is over here, I'm going to read an element. While element remain to be examined, do the searching. If this element is X, then return its position, it's else not. So do you know linear search basically?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. Linear search is if I'm having 1, 2, 3, 4 and I want to search a particular element, it will go sequentially. So if I'm saying I want to find 5 at that time, what it will does with this particular line of code, while element remain to be examined. That is, if the remaining elements you want to examine, we will go inside a loop and we will check if this element is what? 5. If 5 is, it will compare with each and every element from this list. If it is found, if it is equal, what it will do? It will return the position. For example, over here, I want to find 3. So it will be easy. Is it same? No. It will go to the next element. Is it same? No. It will go to the next element. 3. Is it same? That is, if this element is X, then return its position. It means it will return its position 0, 1, 2. So it will return 2 as a position. And if we reach to the end marker, that is end, and there is nothing to examine at that time, but obvious, it will return element not found and it will return 0 value. Okay. Now the post condition for these searches. So this is just a logic. Now we are converting this logic with the pre and post condition. So for post condition after the search, X is equal to A of I and X is not in. Meaning is what? I'm going to search for I plus 1 position to N. That is, I am taking the first element A of I into X and then I'm checking with the remaining elements, that is I plus 1. So that is my post condition will be what? It will check with the remaining one once I have finished with the first element. The condition for staying within the while loop is A of I is not equal to X. Meaning is what? What we have seen, we are reading the number one by one. So when we have used this particular example, I want to check 3 is there in the loop. Sorry, 3 is there in the sequence. So in order to remain in the while loop, this condition should be false. That is, A of I is not equal to X, right? That is my condition, so that it will remain inside that particular looping statement. And the final developed program fragment is what? I'm taking X into A of 0 and I'm taking I is equal to N and I'm checking while X not equal to A of I do. That is, see, I'm checking from the last number. Choice is yours, how you are develop your logic. I have decremented because when I'm taking I is equal to N, it means I'm starting from the last element. So I value should be decremented. And when this condition falls, it will return the position of the I. I hope this is understood.
Yes.
Correct. So this is linear search. Now same way you can, yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we have another lecture.
Yeah, Sushila ma'am is coming. Once she will reach over here, I will immediately stop. Okay. Ma'am is yet to come. I will just finish it off this. Now, so see over here, same way you can do the number. That is, you are to determine whether the sorted array, which is having a number 1 to N, contains the element T. And over here, see, previously we have used linear search. Same way we can use a binary search. So do you know binary search? Whether you are...
Yes.
Correct. So you can apply a binary search where you can divide your numbers into 2 parts. For example, if I have 6 numbers, so but obvious with a binary search, what it will do, it will divide your total number into 2 groups. You will compare the middle number with the number which you want to search. If it is greater, then you will consider this part. If it is less, you will consider the first half, right? So you are eliminating the half portion based on the conditions satisfied for the binary search. Okay. So this is the code I'm going to share. Same thing which I have just now explained it to you. While first is less than last, as I mentioned, we are we are calculating the middle part, and then we are comparing. If t is equal to x middle, that is the number which I want to check. If it is same as of my middle number, it is going to return that particular position. If it is not equal to middle, at that time it will check whether it is less than. So see, if it is
Ma'am, you are not audible.
Ma'am, you're on mute.
hello, now is it audible?
Yes.
So I was saying ma'am is coming in 2 minutes. That's what the message she had given. So meanwhile, I will finish it off the remaining 2 slides. So I hope you have understood the binary search. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Correct. Now, so this is all about the syntax directed control flow statements. Now, same way, you can use these control flow statements in C. Already I have, while doing these control statements in Pascal, I explained you in as a C syntaxes also, right? So just in order to summarize how the control statements written in Pascal and C. In Pascal, if expression then S. Now over here, function brackets are not mentioned in Pascal, whereas in C, it is having the conditions are, or the expressions are always enclosed in a function brackets, right? At the same time, if you remember, I said in Pascal, the block is always starts with begin and end, whereas there is no begin and end in C, there is a curly braces, right? Now, after that, there is a assignment operators. Simple equal to sign is act as an assignment. Double equal to sign is act as a comparator, or it will compare the two values, and not equal to. So in C, we are using not equal to is written in C as, in C, we are using not equal to in this way, whereas in Pascal, it is used not equal to is mentioned in this way. This is the comparison between the Pascal and C programming languages. Okay. Now, after that, the assignment statements, just as I mentioned, single equal to, which will used to assign the value. So with a get char, it will appear as an sub expression within a large expression. So get character, it will read a character and it is stored into C variable. While this will be act as a sub expression when you are reading from a particular file or something like that. So when it is not end of a file, so when it is not end of a file, this loop will continue. So in this particular case, this will act as a sub expression by using the assignment statement with get char. So I'm using assignment as well as not equal to in a single expression. For loops in C, indefinite iteration, that is just a variation of a for loop for E1, E2, E3. Even is, can anybody just quickly let me know the C program syntax for loop? Yes. See, for I is equal to 0, semicolon, I less than n, I plus plus. So over here, I is equal to 0 is my E1, that is, this is my first expression, then E2, and then E3. So basically what will happen when you are using this particular for loop, this condition first it will check I is equal to 0. So that is initialization. then this is checking. If it is less than n, then you will increment E3, right? So this is initialization, condition, and incrementation, right? Now, so over here, if I'm not mentioning any statement expression, I'm just putting semicolon, semicolon, and closing bracket. Now, this for statement is similar to your while true. I hope you are able to recollect in C. While true, it is a infinite looping. So in the same way, when you are using for semicolon, semicolon, the expression even E2 are optional. In this case, it is considered as a forever looping statement. That is infinite looping. It can be read it as forever. So this is all about the statement. Same way, break and continue, which we have discussed previously. Same way you can use it in the C programming. This is one more example. While reading, if it is blank or /t, I will just go for the reading next character. But if it is not equal to /n, I'm going to break and I will increment a line number. So with this, our unit 1 is over. Now, what I will do, I will post a quiz link on the classroom. Maybe at what time you people are having time today? So as I mentioned, our unit 1 is finished. We have discussed in unit 1 role of programming languages, different programming paradigms. Then we talked about the language description, that is the syntactic structure. If you remember, we have seen that every language consists of syntax plus semantics. L is syntax plus semantics. And that is called as language structure. So we have talked about the syntactic structure by using abstract syntax tree. Then we have used parse tree. We have talked top-down, bottom-up parser and all that. And then we have talked about the statements, that is structured programming, as a imperative programming. Where we have talked about all the syntax-directed control flow statements. And with this, our unit 1 is over. So if any doubt, just unmute yourself and let me know. From next lecture, we will start with a unit 2. And today, for just a revision purpose, I will post a link of the quiz. Yes? Somebody was saying something.
Ma'am, I have doubt regarding if-else statement.
Which one?
If-else.
Okay, go ahead.
So in the if-else, so in the if-else, if the condition is true, true part as well as else part is executed, right?
Can you repeat it? I will write on the board whatever you are saying, so it will be easy. Yes.
In the if-else statement.
You are talking about if-else or if-then?
If-else.
If-else, okay. If E, then you are going to do this. Else, this. Right? That's what you are saying. Am I right?
Yes, so I was asking if the condition is true, if part as well as else part is executed.
No. How come? Because when you're saying else, it means if this condition is false, then only my control will transfer to this else block.
Okay, so I didn't get the difference between if else and if then else statement.
Exactly. That was I was asking. See, when you are having if E, then S1, for example. Okay. Now, meaning is what? If this condition is true, if that is E code, as it is shown on this slide, E code, that is the expression, the condition you are checking. If it is true, then only the control will transfer to this point. Am I right? If the condition is true, then only it will execute this particular part.
Yes.
Correct. But if it is not true, if this condition is false, so what we are having in our code, if this condition, then perform this S, that is this S is having suppose some statement, statement 1, statement 2 and so on. And then after this particular block, I will have S2 statement, like some statements over here, which will indicate in this particular case. So if this condition is true, it will transfer this control at this position. But in memory, after this,
Excuse me, ma'am.
yes,
Ma'am, actually, Sushila ma'am called me right now. She's in another lab waiting for us.
just a minute. Hello. Okay. Yes, okay, then we will stop over here. I will clear your doubt in the next lecture. Is that fine? You can just check it out. See, if this condition is true, you can transfer this, the control will be transferred to this position. But if it is false, you are going to the next, you are going to skip this S1 block. Am I right?
Yes.
Correct. And in case of if then else, you will have, if this condition is true, S1, else, what I want, S2, and then it will continue with S3, right? So over here in your flow, this will be S1 block. Once S1, when S1 will over, where my control should be transferred to S3. If it is true, E true, I have to execute S1. If it is false, I have to execute S2. But once I will finish with this S1, where my control should go? S3. Am I right?
Yes.
Correct. So in this way, the control flow will be implemented at backend. And we will stop over here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, fine. I will post a link of the quiz so that you can revise your concepts of Unit 1. Okay.